Hello, my Latin friends. This video is to show you how I use the Quid Et Quo for translating sentences in the Henley. And of course, you could use this to translate any sentences from anyone's Latin. And you can use any Quid Et Quo. You don't have to use this one. This Quid Et Quo that I have is the one that comes inside the Latintribune table that CC sells. And they have lots of other helps inside. Verbs. Look, more verbs, pronouns. It's a very, very good reference. That's all on the inside. And here are all your declensions on the front. Not every single one of your declensions, but that's okay. Then on the back, they have this Quid Et Quo. And if I remember correctly, Quid Et Quo is basically the what and the why. And so this is the place where you parse your verbs. This is basically question confirmation if you went through essentials. This helps make sure that you walk through all of the questions needed so that you can translate your words. I also have a Quid Et Quo that I made as a spreadsheet that I'm sure I will link or share somewhere around here. I haven't put it up yet, so I don't know where it'll be. Anyway, so here's our Quid Et Quo, and here's our Henley. So I'm going to be in, the first one I'm going to do is in lesson 1. We're going to come over here to exercise 6. If you have your own Henley out and your own Quid Et Quo out, then it won't be super important that you can see very clearly what I'm doing. I'll try to write neatly and big on the Quid Et Quo. But if you have yours and you can follow along on your own, that'll be helpful. So let's do exercise 6. Number 1, nautai teram laudant. So on your Quid Et Quo, the thing that I have a wet erase. This is a Stettler. No, it's not light enough you can see. There it is. A Stettler non-permanent basically means wet erase. And this is an ultra fine tip. You'll see that it writes just as fine as a ballpoint pen. A large ballpoint pen, but still much nicer than the dry erase markers. So I use this when I need to write like actual handwriting. So let's get started. Whoops, did I bump it away? There we go. So for the Quid Et Quo, up here on the side, it's numbered. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so step 1 is write the sentence, English or Latin, 1 word per block. So we're going to write those across here, and it's grade so that you remember to do it first. So we have nautai, teram, laudant. And the first thing that I always like to do, and that I'm teaching Abby and the kids in my class to do, is you go through and underline the endings, because it's all about endings, as we know. So nautai, I is our ending, is our ending, and for laudant, the nt is the ending. Okay? Step 2 is to parse each word, and that is where we ask ourselves all the question confirmation things, and we find out the gender, number, and case, etc. And up here it says the best practice order is to find and parse first the verb, then the subject, direct object, indirect object, and then everything else. So far, when we're in chapter 1, we just have a verb, a subject, and a direct object. But the most important thing is that you always start with the verb and then the subject. The other parts of speech sort of fall into line once those are done. So you always start with the verb, number 1, and you always start with the subject, number 2. So of these words, nautai is sailor, terra is land, earth, laudant is our verb. So we're going to start here. If it's early on and you have been keeping up with your vocabulary work, you probably just know that laudant means they praise, but it's good to go ahead and practice using this column, using this verb section for when you have a lot more things to think about. So we're going to go down here to the verbs section, verbs, and it's all striped out in yellow so that you can only do these and you won't go into these other sections. Right now in challenge A, at the very beginning, we pretty much only know person and number and a little bit of tense. Not really, we haven't even talked about verbs yet, so we just have person and number. So we're going to take our verb and go down to person, first, second, or third. Well, the NT tells us that it's going to be third person because it's the OST in singular, and then mustisnt in plural, but it's the third. So it's going to be the plural third person. So here we have singular or plural, P, and person is third. And then you can just go ahead and copy that up here just to help you have it all in one place. It's a third person plural verb. And what is the third person plural verb for pray? It is they pray. So we're going to go to step 4. Translate each word, 1 word per block. They praise, not pray. They praise. Up here at step 3, it says write the Latin dictionary form for each word. And right now it's still so simple that I find myself doing it verbally without really meaning to, because what I just said was, oh, laudant means they pray, or the lauda means praise, and the nt means they, and so we're going to make they praise. When things get big and complicated and you're losing yourself in your work, if you write out, well, we don't know the verbs yet either, but it's going to be laudo, laudare is going to be the Latin dictionary form for that once we get to verbs. But you can write it up there, and then you won't lose your place by having too many things floating around in your brain. All right, so we did laudant, they praise. So now we have to do the subject. And in order to do that, we have to figure out which of these words is going to be the subject. This sentence is probably simple enough that we know that the earth isn't going to be doing any praising, but later they will be complicated, so we should follow the right procedure now. So this is a they verb, so we have to have a third person plural subject. Someone has to be they. It has to be a plural someone doing the praising. So we have teram, and teram, for one thing, is the earth, and it cannot be praising. I guess if you wanted to have a sentence like the earth praises God for making it, it could feasibly be a subject. So we need to check and see why it's not specifically. If you have this Latintribune table, I'm going to try to not move this out of place. It has your endings right here on the front cover, which makes it super, super handy. You always have your declension endings. Let me make sure that's on the video. There we go. So we see that teram ends in om. We come down here, our oms, and we see that that is a direct object. So it can't be the subject because it's a direct object. So we have to excuse that one. Now tie, we have the AE ending. We have multiple options for AE. So we have I as the possessive. It could belong to the sailors. We have I as the indirect object. It could be to or for the sailors. Or it could be I as a plural nominative, a subject of the sentence, more than one sailor. So could it be possessive? Well, does it have anything to possess? Well, no, because this is a direct object, so it doesn't have anything to possess. Could it be an indirect object? Well, no, because you have to have a direct object first and then an indirect object, and that is not our case. So we are left to come to the conclusion the only I that is an option for us is the nominative, which is lucky for us because we really needed a subject in our sentence. So it's going to be a plural nominative. Okay, so we'll just leave that there for now since we're done with the other word. So we're going to come down to this nouns section here, and you probably can't see it on the video, but if you have your own chart, you can look at what I'm doing. We're going to go here to the nominative section, and it wants us to have the G, N, and C for gender, number, and case. And you don't have to label these, you just get used to doing them in order. The gender of nauta, nautai, see, there I did it. I said the Latin dictionary form. I probably should have written it here. Nauta, nautai. There we go. So the gender, we know that is one of the exceptions to the rule that the first declension is feminine because sailors are always men, as according to historical Henley perspective. And so it's going to be a masculine. Okay, number, singular or plural? Well, the I was the plural ending, plural, and the case we have already discovered has to be nominative because of where the ending is. So it's going to be nominative, which is the subject. So now that we know it's going to be masculine, plural, and the subject, we're going to translate each word, and this is going to be translated as the sailors, plural. Now we only have one word left, and that's terom. And as we were finding out whether or not it could be our subject, we discovered that om is the ending for the accusative. There are no other om endings available. That's it. It has to be the direct object. So tera, terai is what we would write up here if we were going to do it. We found that terom is the direct object, which means the noun. You don't put any other, it's just the whatever the noun is. So we're going to say the earth. I'm going to move this out of the way now. So directly translated word for word, the sailors, the earth, they praise. Because in Latin, the verb almost always comes at the end. So for English, we would say the sailors praise. We don't need to have the they there, but we did translate it because later when your sentences are complicated and you've got multiple nouns doing multiple things, you need to remember which one this is. For here, it's very simple. So we would translate this, the sailors praise the earth. Excuse my very, very bad fast handwriting. So that's the very most basic introduction to using the quid et quo. You just put each word separately. Then, especially if you're struggling at all, you will go ahead and write each dictionary definition up at the top. You could do that first even. Just get all that defining out of the way. And I always underline the endings because that is the thing that will answer all of the questions. The verb questions, which in total are which conjugation, voice, mood, tense, person, number, and if it's a verbal or not. The noun questions are GNC, gender, number, case, and then as you add adjectives and other things like that, there are questions down there, but it's the endings that tell you all of it. So underlining those, writing your dictionary definition, making sure you do your verb first, then your subject, and then everything else falls into place is very helpful. So I'm going to end this video so that it doesn't get too long, and then I'll make another video of doing a couple more complicated sentences, and I won't take as much time to explain. I will just talk out loud as I'm translating. So hopefully that's helpful for you guys. My other video, I'll also use the printable quid et quo that I made so you can see it's not really different, but it's ever so slightly different. All right, I hope that helps.